For my blended learning course, I have created 3 initial units of instruction. I did this by using my scope and sequence that I developed in the previous weeks, and I used it to guide which resources from Ed I pull into each module. One note about just some usage of words. In our current HMH program, a module is equivalent to a unit of instruction. So sometimes you'll hear me refer to module, and that equals 3 weeks of instruction. For my newly designed blended learning course, I made modules equivalent to roughly a week of instruction based on how teachers would like to use it, and I went back to the old classic usage of unit instead of module. Obviously this will need to be discussed with my colleagues, but that's what I did here, and I just wanted to clear up that vocabulary term. So I used this to develop my big overarching picture, and then for each lesson I went back to my Understanding by Design template, and this is where I pulled my big hairy audacious goal from, my standards that I needed to hit, things like my essential questions, and what students will be able to do and know. I also used it to craft my assessment evidence and really build out my learning plan. So that's where most of my instruction came from. So my first unit is the introduction to the unit. I'm calling this my module 1, but it's equivalent to my Start Here unit. My blended learning course is going to be, I'm creating the first unit that kids will encounter in their grade 4 ELA classroom for the school year. So this serves as an introduction not only to just the unit itself, but also to the whole school year and how that is going to play out in their learning. So the unit project is an About Me page that kids are going to start creating in this unit, and I've listed my big hairy audacious goal here so that kids know that that's the goal of this whole unit. In my mind, a unit is going to be equivalent to about 5 modules of instruction, depending on the selections that are in each module. That could change. Some units could have up to 6 modules, depending on how beefy the selections are. It's really all dependent on giving each unit time. That's part of the beauty of this blended learning course. Instead of time boxing everything into a very strict, we could only talk about this selection for 2 days, I want the selections to speak to how long that they should be talked about in class. So this particular unit I think is going to be 5 modules, and I lay out the different essential questions for this unit. The main one, overarching one for this unit, is how do people express themselves, and students are creating an About Me page that will live on their ePortfolio, which is going to be the overarching project for the school year. So by the end of 4th grade, students will have a fully developed ePortfolio site that they've put response writings on, an About Me page, videos, podcasts, discussions with their classmates that will continue with them as they move into 5th, 6th, and middle school. You'll notice my essential questions all revolve around expressing themselves. That is this unit's theme. It's about art and how art can be used as a form of expression. My last essential question is about the writing process. My thinking there is that my final unit will focus solely on writing. That's when students will actually craft their full About Me paragraph, so they'll really dig into the writing process for that. So this is where they'll go to see their big hairy audacious goal. Secondly, and each unit begins with a tie back to the unit project. So in module 2, which is called Speak Up, the main resource in this unit is a video. So they use that video to use as an example to create a video or a podcast for their About Me page. And then in module 3, this module is called A Picture's Worth 1,000 Words, and they create a static visual to use on their About Me page, whether that's a sketch that they've done, or I've included how to create digital art. So each module ties back to this introduction to the unit project assignment. I also have a question in each module. So this is always one of the essential questions. So for the first module, it's the main essential question: why is self-expression important? I have them watching a video about self-expression, filling out a Google form about how they express themselves, and then they view a quote. It's important to note that the way that my course is laid out right now, I'm heavily dependent on the learning management system my company already uses. And while it does have some Google Classroom integration, as you can see here, I can share this page to my Google Classroom. It does require a single sign-on to automatically go into Ed. Because I'm crafting this for current customers or people who will be our customers, I don't anticipate this being an issue. For me, I can just click on it and it pre-fills it out and it takes me right to where I need to go. For these purposes, it's a little difficult because I can't get logins for everybody since it's my company's learning management system. But in an ideal world, this will be a single sign-on type situation. So they view that quote and then fill out the Google form for how they express themselves. And this same model is followed in each module. They watch a video and then return back to that Google form to answer a question or to talk with their peers about whatever their particular unit module question is. This one, I have them viewing a quote by Walt Disney about being unique. And this one's particularly interesting because every time we switch units, I plan on updating the banner page in our classroom. And this quote serves as the banner for this unit because it's about self-expression. So then for the first module, I introduced them to this knowledge map, which is a forms of expression knowledge map. This will follow the kids as they work through the entire unit. They work through it talks about the main types of expression, and then students can come in here and start typing based on what they learn, either from module selections or doing their research for their About Me page. And I've linked to that in every module. So they, once again, add to their knowledge network as they move through each module. Each module also has a research section. So this is where they're researching art forms in general, and I've linked a bunch of places to get them started about what different art forms mean, what purposes they serve, how they can be used to express themselves, and then they fill out another Google form on how they will use some of those art forms in their ePortfolio. These next three sections are taken almost entirely from our current program, this Art Everywhere module in HMH into Reading. And I have them doing a genre study on the selection that focuses on big idea words, and this is a Google slide. So what they can do is open it up, and it seems very big and open and vague, but that's the point. Is I have kids coming in here, and this is a big idea word from the module selection. They are asked to look up the word either in their My Book, which is our student edition textbook, or a dictionary, and then they put the definition anywhere on this slide that they see fit, and then I have them researching online photos or videos or pictures that they think of when they think of the word inspiration. So by the end of either the unit or the module or even the lesson, however quickly they want to get it done, this becomes kind of a living, breathing document that they can use to refer back to these big idea words and then use that to inform their About Me pages. So then we also do a short read called Why Art Centers Matter, and this is basically a primer text for the whole unit of instruction about why creativity is important. So once again, I have the single sign-on that actually leads you to the selection. So students will read this. As you can see, this is where those big idea words are. Those are the highlighted words. And then the skill, which is attached to a standard I have to meet for this particular unit, is ideas and support. So I've provided the anchor chart attached to this lesson, so in order to help guide kids finding the ideas and support present in this text, since it is an argumentative text. So that's another thing they talk about in this genre study, is what they know about argumentative text, what makes a text persuasive, etc. And to wrap up this unit, they respond to the text, and each of our texts come with a set of questions in them. This one happens to, since it's just a short read, it is only teachers that see these questions, so I created a quiz that includes these questions, and students answer this this short little quiz after reading. This is where my outcomes and assessments kind of align with each other. I do have to provide some sort of formative assessment since there are standards and grades to be met across states, but the module project, unit project, is where the good deep learning is actually happening. So my second module is called Speak Up, and again in this module it ties to the unit project. They're creating a podcast, so I've directed them to some videos and articles about what it means to create a podcast. Once again, they refer back to this Forms of Expression Knowledge Network so that they can see what they can use in their podcast, what they can talk about in their podcast. And then this says access denied, but it's a Get Curious video from our module that basically acts as another primer for kids, introducing the topic about why art is important. So I just have them reading that to reinforce the whole point of this module. And then once again, there's another question about expressing yourself, and this is a direct tie to an SEL competency, a social emotional learning competency. So I have them watching an SEL video and then doing a short little conversation with their peers about how they'll express themselves in their e-portfolio and truly get their voice across. And then I have them doing some research on different About Me pages, and I've linked some examples for them to look at just to get some ideas about what an About Me page looks like. And then I've also included this document about setting up an About Me page to really get them going on what they need to do, assuming that they use WordPress. I'm operating under that assumption, but of course teachers may choose to use Blogger or Wix or whatever else they feel comfortable with their kids using. It could also be Google Classroom. And then I have another Google form where they have to fill out what elements they will include. Then for this selection, I have an interactive vocabulary practice activity. Once again, I have the single sign-on issue. But as you can see, it's an interactive practice activity that introduces them to the critical vocabulary in this module selection, which is how can photos take us back in time. And they practice with each word and just get used to what each word means. There's a quiz, and then there's a little short answer writing piece that they do. And then they have another genre study lesson where they talk about what they know about informational videos, what they think they'll learn, and just another clue to keep in mind on how this video is structured so that they can use it when they form their About Me page. And then they view the actual video, and this time the anchor chart and skill is ask and answer questions. So I've provided that again here, and this one's particularly helpful because they are asking and answering themselves questions about how they can use this on their ePortfolio site. So they use that to view the video, which is here. So they watch the video, they take notes while they watch it, and then look for the critical vocabulary words to just reinforce those words again. And then after they watch the video, they do a short little response writing. So I have them answering these questions in their My Book. And this can serve as a draft that the teacher can then grade these go straight to my learning management systems grading platform. But then I also have a Google Doc for them to use so that they can share it with their peers and receive some feedback and feed forward. And then this will eventually be used as the basis for the posts they can put on their ePortfolio. Then in the third module, once again, we have another unit project. This one is a static visual. So I connect it to their knowledge network again, and then I've provided 2 YouTube videos, one on how to create print art in Canva, which is a really popular website, and then another one called Art for Kids Hub, which posts different art activities every week for kids in case they want to do an actual illustration. And then once again, we have the question again. This is the one that's tied to the Walt Disney quote. So I have them thinking about why it's important to be unique, what it means to be unique, and I have them add ideas to their knowledge network about that. Then I have them revisit the interactive practice critical vocabulary activity because they're rewatching that same video. So the way that our current program is structured is students use the same selection or text or video to discuss multiple skills, and I have to kind of stick with that in order to meet standards requirements. So they replay the critical vocabulary activity and see if their scores have improved at all, and then they rewatch how can photos take us back in time, this time focusing on central idea. So once again, I've included that anchor chart here, and the goal of this is for them to understand how the creator conveys their central idea, because they will also be a creator who needs to convey a central idea through their ePortfolio. So then they have a collaborative discussion with their peers about the selection using these questions. And again, they can type these out and they get sent straight to Learning Management System Ed, so that teachers can grade them. But this work is really about the discussion. So there's a listening and a speaking tip. So this will most likely happen in small groups after they rewatch the video. And then finally, there's a selection quiz. Again, this is another one of those formative assessment pieces that we have to have. This is the preview mode of this quiz, so that's why it doesn't really work. Again, with the single sign-on issue, it will go away. There's no way for me to actually link the quiz here. There is a printable version, but of course, we're trying to be blended, so we want this to be online. But if a kid has access to Ed, they will be able to see this quiz here. So as you can see, this is mostly student driven. There is teacher guided discussion and teacher guided help with the unit project, but overall it is the student driving most of this learning. The students are introduced to the big, hairy, audacious goal right from the beginning. This will be a consistent part of this module. And of all of these units, and most of the work, it will be a blended curriculum, like I've mentioned. Most of the work will occur synchronously. Some of these assignments can be done asynchronously if the teacher chooses to do so, but because it's 4th grade English language arts, most of it will happen in the classroom together. I'm excited to see where else this module goes, and again, I am a little bit limited because of my current learning management system. There's just not a whole lot of communication between Google Classroom, but I think this is a good start for where I anticipate my blended learning curriculum going.